Okay, here we go. 4 minutes. Okay. Oh, shit. That was what I forgot to do. Let's see what's it doing. Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to our Thursday Zero to Pitch weekly clinic. If you're here live or watching the replay, I'm Brett, I'm your host today. I work with startup CEOs who are building their business and trying to either raise money or grow their startups. And that's our goal today. And if you're trying to raise money, you're in the right place because we want to help you make sense to investors. So today, I'm going to walk you through the questions we get from our audience here. We have some questions already. I'll answer them directly, but I'll also point out what usually sits underneath the question. What's really going on? That's what we want to get to, because that's where early stage mistakes tend to get made. If you want a place to work through these questions in a more depth, Zero to Pitch is my free community for startup CEOs. You can see the QR link right there on your screen. All you have to do is scan it and you're in. That's all you need to do. Scan it, answer a few questions, and you're in. So with that, let's get started. Okay, and let's start with our first question. If you have a question for me, then just put them in the chat box for me, and I'll be happy to answer them for you. So our first question today: how much information should I share with my team? Great question. I get this one all the time. And usually the thing that's underlying this question is a worry about transparency, about whether or not transparency will create confusion instead of alignment. In other words, how much information should you really share? The issue is not whether or not to be transparent or not, because you absolutely positively should be transparent. You need to be transparent. That's how you build trust with your team. The real issue here is whether transparency is paired with context. In other words, are we explaining the what's and the whys and the hows of what we're doing? Because the problem is when teams get full transparency without the context, they hear noise instead of direction. That's the issue. And that's where execution breaks down. So ask yourself this question: how would your team know what actually matters this week if you're being fully transparent with them, if everything feels equally important? All right. Very good. So we'll go to our next question. If you have questions for me, please put them in the chat box and I will be happy to answer them for you. Whatever the question is, you'll get my answer. So put them in the chat box. I will be happy to answer them for you. So let's go to our next question here. What's in your potential investor's mind when they meet you for the first time? That is a great question too. I love it. So we're getting some really good questions today. So the worry here, and again, I totally get this because we tend to be paranoid individuals, us CEOs, is it sounds like you're worried about being judged before you even get started. That's what I would call the first meeting jitters. So it totally makes sense. But here's the thing: the investor is not evaluating your idea first. They are evaluating whether they trust you to make good decisions when things go wrong, because they know, as you will soon find out, that things inevitably go wrong at startups all the time. So whether or not you can make good decisions is critical to them. So when we're presenting, most founders think of that meeting with an investor as being all about the slides. But here's what investors are really wondering about. They're watching how you think, how you explain trade-offs, and whether you feel like a real CEO. That's what they're up to here, because they're evaluating you. Do they want to work with you for the next 7 to 10 years of your life? They can read the slides. They're interested in you and how you think. So ask yourself this question. What happens if your slides just disappeared? You didn't have them. You had nothing. It was just you. Halfway through your meeting with an investor, no slides, just you. What would you do? And then ask yourself the following question. Would the investor still believe in you? Okay, let's go to our next question. So if you have questions for me, please put them in the chat box for me, and I'll be happy to answer them for you. Here's our next question. How much equity should I give investors? I'll tell you a story at the end of this one. Okay, so I'm laughing, but it's an interesting question. Yet another question I get asked all the time. And usually the worry here when I hear this question is that you're worried about giving up too much control of the company, or that somehow or other investors are going to take advantage of you. That's the real thing, because how much equity should you really be giving these people? That's what you're worried about. Totally get it. Now, here's the thing. The real issue is not the percentage of equity we give the investors. The market's going to determine that. The real issue is whether or not, regardless of the amount of equity that you give an investor, because essentially the market, again, determines that, not you. The real issue is whether your company is going to survive long enough to matter. Because here's the thing. If your company fails and you own 90% of it, the 90% is worth zero. However, think of it this way. If you own 10% of something that's worth $1 billion, it's a much better deal. So here's the deal. You don't decide the number. That's what I've been trying to tell you. The market, which is investors, they decide. And fighting the market becomes a problem for you because it creates friction in the deal, which makes the deal unlikely to happen. If we create too much friction, too many problems, too many issues, then you will not raise money, full stop. That's the way to think about this. So here's the question to ask yourself, as I was just describing. Would you rather own 100% of nothing, 90%, 100%, whatever, let's say it's the ideal percentage you get, but you do yourself harm in the process? Or would you rather own a smaller percentage of something? I know which boat I'm in. All right. See, do we have any other questions today? Any other questions? You can put them in the chat box if you have questions for me, and I will be happy to answer them for you. Okay, let's see if we've got some other questions. Guess maybe it's the holidays or something, but not too many questions today. So I'll give you guys another minute or so to ask the questions. Always works. Always works. Okay, here's the next question we have. I'm worried about sending my deck to West Coast VCs that they can run with my company idea. So it feels like what you're worried about is that you're worried that investors are going to steal your idea. That's the worry. So, and that's a normal worry to have, okay, that they're going to steal your idea. And therefore, if they steal your idea, you don't have a company, right? Because they'll just steal the idea and create a company. So you're thinking about that they're in this to steal the idea, yet what investors are thinking about is that they're hoping you can execute on the idea. That's the thought process that investors have. So it's not from their perspective at all. They don't want to be in this business. They want you to succeed. That's what they're looking at. They're in the people business. So here's the question you have to ask yourself. If it was so easy for an investor to just steal your idea or anybody to steal your idea, then your idea is not worth much, wouldn't you say? So that's the way I would think about that. Okay, next question that we have. Okay. You're protective. Okay, how to protect my materials from investors. Okay, it's the same question. So the follow-up question is, well, how do I protect my materials from investors? So the worry is if I show how great my company is, on and the secrets to what makes us successful, again, that they'll just steal what we're doing. So the thought process and the way you're thinking about it is that they're in it to steal your idea. And the reality is, again, they're in it to hopefully invest in you. They don't want to be building startups. They want you to build the startup. So the question, again, to be asking yourself, if you're in this question, is if it was so easy to steal it just from a slide deck, then how worthy is your idea? How good is it? Okay, let's go to our next question here. Okay. We are scaling 6 years of success of our ceramic water filter program in our nonprofit over to a redemptive social enterprise. Okay, congratulations. I'm sorry, but I don't see I don't see a question there, so I'm going to have to pass on that. Okay, maybe this is the question. I was recommended not to lead with redemptive social enterprise when pitching. Okay, so I think the worry is that whatever I'm not sure what a redemptive social enterprise is, but it feels kind of like a nonprofit or something like that. So the worry is that if I lead with that, then investors are going to think that there's no money in it for them. I think that's what you're asking. So the way investors are thinking about things and looking at things, and I think you're right to worry about it, is they are money people. They're interested in how do I make money here? That's the goal. So the question, to be asking yourself about all of this is, okay, I need to be thinking like an investor. How do I think about what they need and explain what we do? That's the question you need to be asking yourself, is how do you do both of those things? That's the mission here. Okay, questions. If we have more questions, that would be great. I'll be happy to answer them for you. You can put them in the chat box for me, and I'll be happy to answer them. Okay. Okay, next question. Are there quote unquote impact investors who want to make money, but also have a legacy impact? So the question here and the worry is, well, if I'm just trying to make an impact, am I going to be able to attract investors? Okay, so the reality here is, again, they want to make money. If they can do good, and there are investors out there that want to do good, then great, they'll be happy to do good. So the real question that you need to ask yourself is, how do I find these investors? That's the issue that you face, is I need to find these investors. That's the thing to do, and that's the thing to go look at. Okay, our next question. What essential items should I include in my pitch deck for an early stage pre-revenue tech startup. So it sounds like you're wondering, well, what do I do? How do I prepare a pitch deck and a pitch? Because I have no idea what to do. So the worry here is, well, if I don't know what to do, then I'm going to fall on my face and my meetings are going to go very poorly with investors. Right? I think that's kind of what you're asking here. So the question is, well, what do I do here? How do I solve this? So the simple solution is scan the QR code on your screen right now. And as a starting point in this, join Zero to Pitch. It's free. And that's exactly what we are there to help you with, is to start building the foundational items of your pitch. So you can get that in Zero to Pitch, build that strong foundation of what you're doing. And then if you want to get to what I call investor ready, then you can join the paid group Zero to Pitch Gold and get to that. But the starting point is Zero to Pitch. Scan it. It's free for life. That's the way to go. Okay. Any other questions? I am happy to answer them for you. You can put them in the chat box for me. Just go ahead and put them in the old chat box and I'll be happy to answer them. Got time for a couple more if you've got them. Give you guys another minute or so to ask some questions if you have them. Okay, it looks like we have no more questions unless something comes up while I'm saying goodbye to everybody. Thank you so much. I hope this was helpful. Trying to think about what we're going to do next week because it's Christmas. And maybe I'll do it on another day or something like that so that I can help more people. Isn't this great? Always when I do this, it always works. So this may be our final question here. Here's the final question I have. Let's say the pitch deck says the company is bringing an innovation to an industry. No, the VC won't be able to replicate the exact innovation, but they could talk about the mind space. So the worry is that they're going to learn about your innovation and share it. It seems like might be the issue with portfolio companies. So what you're worried about is the what ifs. The what if it's shared? What if somebody else learns what we're doing and then we're out of business? That's what I get. But here's the question to ask yourself, and the right way to think about this is, what are you there for? Are you there to raise money or not? That's the right way to think about this. And that should tell you what to do. The next question we have: do investors care about patents in early stage startups? So what you're wondering is, if I've got all these patents, is that going to make a difference or not? So I'm going to call it the tension in the argument, so to speak, is, are the patents going to overcome everything else about our company? In other words, people are just going to get overwhelmed, say, wow, you've got all these patents, and therefore they're going to want to invest. However, the way investors think about this is, investors are wondering, well, patents are hard to defend, can take years to defend, lots of money to defend, and therefore, is it worth it for us? Because that's not what we're in business for, is patent defense that may or may not work. So the right question to be asking yourself is, do we have something that's difficult for others to replicate? That's the right question. Okay, if we have some other questions, since we're getting a few more, I'll be happy to answer them for you. Give you guys a little bit more time. Okay, looks like we are done for the day with questions. So again, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time today. Again, Zero to Pitch is there for you. It's free. Just scan that QR code, answer a couple questions, and you're in the group, and you can get started on building that foundation for your startup and your pitch so that you can get ready to get to investor ready. So anyways, with that, I want to thank you so much. Take care. Have a great day.